This could be the week we see a draft version of the Senate climate bill. Will your washing machine qualify? The government starts new testing for the Energy Star label. And EPA has until the end of this week to decide if it will overturn a permit for the largest mountaintop removal mining project in West Virginia history.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good morning, I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report on this 22nd day of March 2010. After months of delays, this may be the week that Senators Kerry, Graham, and Lieberman roll out a draft version of their climate bill. The three senators have already shared a draft outline with industry leaders. Afterward, John Kerry said their draft could be out by the end of the week, ready for review by the Congressional Budget Office. Two factors are at work on the timing here. First, Congress begins a two-week spring recess this Friday, and that could affect any momentum on the draft. Second, in the wake of last night's House vote, the Senate may now get caught up in the health care morass. Later today, Clean Skies' Tyler Suiters will discuss the climate draft outline with Steve Cornelli of NRG Energy. You can see that conversation this afternoon right here on cleanskies.com. The government is moving to expand and strengthen the Energy Star program. EPA and DOE have launched a new verification program that will test all products going after the Energy Star label at independent laboratories. About 25% of appliances in the country have the Energy Star designation. The program has been around for 18 years, but it's been under scrutiny lately for lax standards, turf wars between EPA and DOE, and the prospect that household appliances are not as efficient as they claim to be. Before the new program, Energy Star relied on the marketplace and some testing by the federal government. Under the new program, DOE's already started testing freezers, refrigerator freezers, clothes washers, dishwashers, water heaters, and room air conditioners. The department says it will test about 200 basic models at third-party labs over the next several months. DOE's general counsel talked to Clean Skies News about the Energy Star program's facelift.
The idea is not just to find people who violated the rules and smack them. The idea is to create a system where companies know we are enforcing these regulations, because the goal is not to play gotcha with somebody. The goal is to get companies to sell into the market appliances that are energy efficient, the way they're supposed to be, that will save consumers money and will conserve electricity. And the way to do that is not just to enforce it against one company or another, because you can't get everybody. The idea is to let people know there is an enforcement system so that people will voluntarily comply.
Well, DOE has also raised the penalty for manufacturers who violate Energy Star standards from $100 a day to $200 per day per appliance in a particular category. Well, EPA now has until Friday to decide if it will overturn the largest mountaintop removal mining permit in West Virginia history. A federal judge in Charleston agreed to delay his ruling in a lawsuit over Arch Coal's Spruce No. 1 mine, giving the agency a new deadline to act on the Army Corps of Engineers Clean Water Act permit. The EPA didn't threaten to overturn the Spruce permit until last fall, but it has consistently raised questions about the proposed operation. When Arch first proposed this Spruce mine in 1998, it called for a 3,100-acre development that would bury more than 100 miles of streams. But 3 years ago, Corps issued a scaled-back permit to bury 8 miles of streams, and environmental groups sued. Australia's Arrow Energy has agreed to sell its coal seam gas assets to Royal Dutch Shell and PetroChina for $3.1 billion. The deal advances Shell's plan to be at the forefront of Australia's emergence as a major natural gas exporter. It also adds to a flurry of activity in the world's unconventional gas resources. Shell and PetroChina said in a release today they intend to start constructing a big liquefied natural gas export project in Queensland state using Arrow's gas as feedstock by 2012. The deal must now be approved by shareholders and by regulators. NRG Energy is one step closer to building a new nuclear reactor in Texas. The NRC's draft environmental impact statement finds nothing to block a new unit at the South Texas project. There are two 1,250 megawatt reactors operating there now, with room for at least 2 more. NRG hopes the news will make South Texas the next project awarded federal loan guarantees. Plant opponents claim NRC failed to consider the effects of simultaneous serious accidents. They are hoping to turn out local opposition for an NRC public meeting in nearby Bay City in May. A champion of protecting public lands and national parks, considered an architect of the modern environmental movement, has died in Santa Fe. Stewart Udall, father of Senator Tom Udall of New Mexico, served 6 years in Congress as a Democrat from Arizona, then as Secretary of the Interior under Presidents Kennedy and Johnson. Udall worked to expand public lands and enact major environmental laws, including those protecting endangered species. He helped write legislation, including the Wilderness Act of 1964, which protects millions of acres from logging, mining, and other development. Stewart Udall was 90. Oregon is slashing its renewable energy incentives after revelations of widespread abuses that turned the incentives into budget busters. The law just signed by Oregon's governor cuts the maximum tax credit for a wind project from $10 million down to $3.5 million and phases it out in 3 years. It caps the total annual spending for credits at $300 million for energy projects and $200 million for manufacturing, and phases those out by 2014. It bars developers from dividing their projects into smaller segments to claim multiple tax credits, and it includes clawback provisions to reclaim subsidies for incomplete projects. Oregon's legislature tried to make changes last year, but the governor vetoed the bill. He says this bill strengthens accountability. The wind industry has said cutbacks mean companies will relocate factories and jobs to states offering better deals. A Silicon Valley startup hopes to stiffen its bottom line by reusing captured CO2 in cement. The New York Times says Solera Corporation has found a way to capture carbon dioxide emissions from coal and gas power plants and lock them into cement. Solera says it takes CO2, combines it with seawater or groundwater brine, and that yields calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate used in making cement. It also makes blends of Solera cement and Portland cement in order to meet cement quality specifications. Solera is right now in the midst of a pilot project. Venture capitalist Vinod Khosla says has invested $50 million in this and says the technology can make coal carbon negative, cleaner than solar and wind. And it can make carbon capture economically attractive without taxes or subsidies. Scientists looking for uses for captured carbon say the test of the Solera process will be whether it works at commercial scale. A new analysis of energy investment predicts a boom in wind development this year to the tune of $65 million. Bloomberg New Energy Finance is predicting a 9% increase in global installations of wind turbines this year, with as much as 41 gigawatts of generation capacity. Forecasters predict China Wind Power Group, Iberdrola, and Duke Energy will lead the way as utilities add wind capacity to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels. The Global Wind Energy Council says worldwide investment in wind energy last year totaled $63 billion, with 37.5 gigawatts of new capacity. 1/3 of those turbines were installed in China, which doubled its capacity to 25 gigawatts. Overall, Bloomberg says worldwide investment in renewable energy could top $200 billion this year, up from $162 billion in 2009. Chevron's expected to announce plans today to build a solar panel test site near Bakersfield, California. More than 7,000 solar panels will be installed at a location where a massive oil refinery once stood. Chevron will test panels representing various technologies from 7 different companies. It's deciding which is best suited to power its operations worldwide. The oil company says it has already saved $3 billion in energy use since 1982, when it started using hydrogen fuel cells and solar panels at its facilities. Chevron says it plans to spend at least $2 billion over the next 3 years on renewable power ventures and research. Here's a look at some goings-on around the Beltway today in energy. At 10 a.m., EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson lays out her agency's vision for clean drinking water in a speech before the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies. That's at the Renaissance on DuPont Circle. At 10 a.m., Carbon Motors, makers of the world's first purpose-built law enforcement vehicle, and BMW announce a major technology collaboration. At 11, the National Science Foundation and Departments of Agriculture and Energy have a teleconference to announce an interagency effort to improve climate change forecasting. That's the Energy Report. Thanks for joining us here in the Energy News Center. For any suggestions or comments about our programming on Clean Skies News, we'd like to hear from you. You can email us at contact@cleanskies.com. And a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Susan McGinnis. You're watching Clean Skies News.